Thanks for joining our teacher roundtable. And I wanted to start with introduction. So name, your school, years of teaching.
My name is Pamela Goodlow. I have worked over 20 years, and I am at Global Heights Academy, and that's in Dearborn Heights.
Okay, teaching.
First grade. My first year teaching first grade.
Okay. David?
I'm David Brown. I teach in Warren Consolidated Schools. Currently, I'm at Cousin O High School teaching art. I've taught elementary school. I've taught middle school. I also teach ELA. So I've been at the high school for the last 6 years, but I've bounced around within the district.
Hi, I'm Audra Butler. I teach at Bates Academy. I am the technology teacher there. I also teach entrepreneurship, yearbook, a podcast group, and STEM activities.
Hi, I'm Lynn O'Mara. I teach at Most Holy Trinity Catholic Academy in Corktown. I've been there, this will be my 5th year, but I also had a career in public schools before that. So I've taught all grades, kindergarten through 8, with the exception of 4th, and 16 years in kindergarten, and now ending up in middle school.
Excellent.
Hi, I'm Erica Rapaski, and I teach at Hope of Detroit Academy. I teach 9th and 10th English, and this is my 13th year of teaching.
Chris Geyer. I'm from Rochester High School in the Rochester Community School System. This will be my 31st year, all at the same school, Rochester High. I teach video and film studies, also 12th grade English, which includes a lot of oral communication, presentational type of things. So, it's been a great ride so far.
Excellent. So I'll start with you, Chris. In terms of giving advice to parents, if you could talk to each and every parent of every student in your classroom to start the new school year, what would be top of mind to tell them?
Well, 2 things. One, you want to get them back into a routine because they've been all over the place in the summer. Even if they're busy, it's a different kind of thing. So you want to get the routines back down, get them to figure out when to put their phones away and when to be able to shut down and be able to get up and be organized in the morning. Is really like a huge thing. And then a good thing to do is look at what can they do during the school year that's a productive stress reliever. That's one of the things we talk about in the district. The schools try and offer outlets for kids. We have theater, we have sports, we have clubs, but school can be stressful and all of the demands on them can be really stressful. So if they've got something they can do that blows stress off, but it's productive as well, it's a win-win. So if you look for those 2 things, back into organizational skills and then finding a way to decompress. Because if a kid comes into a classroom stressed out, they're not as functional as if they come in with something to look forward to or with something that they've done that they've really enjoyed.
So give some examples of those de-stressors or some ideas for parents.
Well, with some kids, it's if they're on sports teams, the exercise that they get is a good stress release.
Yeah.
If they want to, you mentioned like the charity you do. Kids giving back to communities, like we have an old person's council in Rochester and we get involved with those. And so kids will go there and they spend time at all of the levels from K through 12 visiting, some of the older citizens in the community, and they're giving back and they're learning. Yeah. And then they feel like they're more part of everything.
So trying to help your child be more well-rounded. It's not just academics, but encouraging the extracurricular activities and community service.
Yeah, balance is important. I mean, it's one of the things we talk about. Like we'll have our opening PD days next week, and they talk about creating a balanced, healthy student. And we do that again from K through 12. All of the kids, we want to have that same kind of thing because it's, in sports, the metaphor would be if you do one sport all the time, you can get a recurrent use injury. It's the same thing with kids. If they spend all their time gaming, that's a problem. But if they spend all their time studying, that's also a problem. So you want to have some balance. And obviously there are times when you're going to spend more time, for my class, when they have their senior presentations, that's really stressful. They have to do a whole hour in front of the class with their group teaching a subject. So sometimes they got to spend more time on that. But you want to create that balance to give the kids a little breathing room and something that they're proud of outside of the classroom too. You know, it might just be, it could be a job too. You know, that's always a good thing to do.
I see everyone nodding. We all agree. And then, Erica, you had a different perspective of just about positivity, speaking positivity about school and the teachers and the staff. Elaborate more on that.
Absolutely. So, we're really all a learning family. So we have the students for part of the day, and then, parents, guardians, they have the students for the rest of the day. So I think just having that positive attitude about school in general really makes a world of a difference. And I've seen that in the classroom over my years of teaching, and just when the students go home and there's that positivity and there's that support, and we have parents that are supporting our students as best as they can, supporting their children with homework that they may have or whatever that might be. It really, really makes a difference because, we're just part of the day.
Yeah.
We're just part of the day. So, if they can go home and parents are excited about school and positive and letting them know just how many opportunities school can bring to them, it really makes a difference.
And what other advice would you have just to tell parents so that their kids are prepared to have that positive school year?
I would say, getting them ready. I completely agree with having a morning and nighttime routine. I really noticed that my students that are the most successful, or at least aren't as tired, I ask them, what would you tell other students? I ask my students a lot of questions, and a lot of the feedback that I get is, well, I have a routine every single night. I go to bed by 9 o'clock and I get up and we do this and that. And I know that, life throws us different stressors, and, some families have a lot of children and stuff. So it's just doing the best you can, but really trying to stick to that routine. That really, it does help. So that's what I would say to that.
And how about how parents communicate with you as their teacher or with administrators?
Yeah, be communicative. Reach out to us, but also it's our job to reach out to them too. So when we do reach out, I would say try to respond. We know that you're busy. We completely understand. But like I said, we're all on the same team and we want to help your child. So when we do reach out, if you can, get back with your teachers, have a discussion. Even if it's a hard discussion, have that discussion, because it really all boils down to looking out for what's best for our kids. And usually a short discussion can fix anything that we need, that we have a problem with, or that you might need to speak to us about. So yeah, just that open line of communication and being communicative, because we definitely try that, on our end to make sure that we're reaching as many parents as we can. So if you can help us on that end, that would be so great.
Be responsive, answer those emails.
Yes, please. Yes.
And also, I like what you said. Did you call it we're a learning family, to kind of think of it that way?
Yeah.
That we're all in this together.
Yes, if you can. I tell my students that too. We're your school family, and then you have your family at home. So we really are working together. We have to work together. And I think that's the biggest thing, So if we can just get into that mindset, then that's the way to get a positive year going.
Lynn, you have the most experience here at the table.
I think I do.
And I also thought your responses were some of the most unique ones as well. So when you think about your most important message to parents, you came at it from some different angles. And one of them was just about kind of creating that, I guess, I'm trying to think of what you called it. Well, let's wait. So I'll start over. Lynn, Lynn, you have the most experience at 40 years. And I'm sure you've seen technology start to really become a major issue.
I didn't even have a dial-up phone in my first classroom.
Wow.
Send kids with notes to the office.
And specifically talking with parents about screen time, and you have this suggestion for it.
Oh, and this I heard from a workshop when my own children were young, and I told my kids they could watch as much, back then it was just TV as they wanted, but they had to read the the first day they could watch as much TV as they wanted, but going forward, however many minutes, hours they read was how much screen time they earned. And so if they read 5 hours, they could watch 5 hours of TV. If they only read for half an hour, the screen went on for half an hour. When they were older, and this is parenting advice coming from a parent, we had the bedroom for the phone, which was in the kitchen. And everybody, my husband and I included, plugged our phones in at 10 o'clock at night in the kitchen. And then after one of the kids snuck down, we plugged them in our bedroom at night.
Well, that'll do it.
Because that way they just weren't tempted to get on their phones. And that helped us with some of the social anxiety too, because my kids are a little older, so we didn't have quite as much of trouble with the texting and some of the bullying that happens. But it happens after midnight. And if they aren't on their phones and they're not on their computers, they can't participate one way or the other. When we were all kids, even if school was tough for you, when you left and went home, that was mostly a safe space.
Right.
And our kids now don't have that. They do not. And that's one of the biggest changes I've seen over the last 40 years.
Well, and I'll just piggyback for 30 seconds. One of the things we started doing last year, the English department at our school, we made a pact at the beginning that we would all use these phone caddies. Because if you're the only one doing it, kids would be like, well, this person doesn't. Well, Miss Walker doesn't make us put it away, so why should we, don't you want to be cool like Miss Walker? No, I stopped being cool years ago. I don't care, So we put them on the wall and they put their phones up unless you need them for something. I'm like, okay, today you're going to need the phones for this. And honestly, I'd say a vast majority of the kids are relieved. They're relieved to be disconnected where they don't have to, because and I do the same thing. If my phone buzzes, I'm tempted to look. Right. And they're just so connected to that whole idea. But then when you disconnect them, they're allowed to be present in the classroom. And I think that's been one of the greatest things that we did in the last couple of years, is relieving them of the pressure of having to respond to their phones and just letting them be present in the classroom. So sorry, I didn't.
No, I'm glad you said that, because I hung up my phone caddy for our phones this year. We are doing that this year, and the homeroom teachers are locking the phones up at homeroom, and they get them back at the end of the day.
I also like some of your advice for students that are getting ready for school. If there's school shopping that still needs to take place.
Yeah, that was another one that kind of came from my mom life. There's parents, and if you're online at all, parents are really complaining about how much you have to spend on supplies and all the hassle and all that. And I used to make a game of it and give them the circulars for Target and Walmart and all the stores. And then their job was to find the least expensive way we could get the supplies for their classes. And so we would get a list, and we would have Abby's list, Claire's list, and Tom's list from Walmart, Abby's list, Claire's list, Tom's list from Target, Office Depot, and then they're participating, they're doing some math, they're researching, they're understanding what's going into this, which potentially could help them be more respectful of their supplies and keeping track of them.
Yeah, and understanding what things cost.
Right, exactly.
And saving you the time of trying to find all the deals.
Right.
Another thing that you said was involving your kids in understanding, like we always say you need to have enough sleep, but actually having them do research on why.
Right, yes. And I've done this when I taught the early grades. I would have an article, and that was part of my parent-teacher conferences, was you understand that children who are 5 and 6 need 10 to 12 hours of sleep a night, which means if you're due here at school at 8, they should be in bed at 7, which is tough for families, but by 8 o'clock they should be in bed. And that is especially helpful, to go back to something that Chris said about getting back into routine before school starts. The sleep routine, I would recommend with elementary school kids, especially if it's a new school, go walk around the outside of the school. Try and figure out where your door is going to be. Look at that playground. Look around. If you can get inside and poke around a little bit, do that, because different kids have different levels of anxiety about different things, and as much of it as can be familiar as possible is really powerful. Apart from the back to school, which a lot of families skip, and I would say please don't. because that's our chance to be warm, which we all should be all the time, but it's our chance to not be instructing. We're just here to meet you. We're just here to shake your hand. We're just here to meet your mom. We're here to meet your siblings. We want to know you and know where you come from, and just be at ease. And so I think the most powerful thing you can do, going back to what you said about being a family, is to let them know you're human as a teacher, and to let them know your expectations as a teacher, and then the communication can be easier. I would also suggest to parents, if you have a problem, please be open-minded when you reach out. There's two sides to a story, and what happened is probably kind of in the middle, but we're not the enemy. Nobody does this job because we want to get your kid. We really, really don't. We really, really don't. We're here for your kid. When I've spoken to parents of kids when the parents weren't together and weren't working well together, I would say, look, I am not here for you. I am not here for the baby's other parent. I am here for your child. So I'm going to have to say some things that are tough to you, because that's what your child is needing from you. And I can only do so much between 8 and 3.
Is there ever a sense of feeling blamed by a parent of, if a student isn't doing well, or?
Parents, it's an overwhelming job. And if you're trying to work and you have more than one child and you have more than one school, or if you didn't have a good school experience yourself, or the teacher doesn't look like you, or from where you're from, there's a whole lot of trust that needs to be built. And that's particularly my job, because I've taught in a lot of very diverse schools, and many of my kids don't look like me. So I work really hard to build trust with the kids and the families, and I don't play, but I don't play with anybody. And I also love you, and I want the best for you. So, once they know that about me, I usually don't have too much trouble.
And David, I wanted to jump to you, because that trust relationship was something big that you really focus on.
For sure,
too.
yeah. Like you said, we want the same thing. We want your kid to be successful. So, if there's an issue, come to me and talk to me, because either I made a mistake, which I do. I actually had a parent come in. Luckily, they weren't looking for me. They had the wrong classroom, but it was for parent-teacher conferences. They literally used the phrase battle mode, like they were coming in to fight me. Like, I don't want to do that. I'm not here. I'm not an umpire. You don't got to come in and kick dirt on my cleats. Like, I want success, and you want success. So if it's a mistake, let me fix it. And if it's not a mistake, let me explain why I've done what I've done, why the consequences are what they are in my classroom. And then from there, we can talk about how do we see success from this failure? Like, where do we move from here?
And you also just think that communication, which I think we're all talking about, is vitally important with the parents.
For sure. And like a lot of times, not a lot of times, but it's really hard to help a parent if they come to me, if they reach out like with 2 weeks or a week left in the card marking. Like, if there's an issue and I don't reach out to you, which sometimes I don't have time to reach out to everybody. So if you think your kid is struggling, or you'd like to see them do better, or you think there's an issue, as soon as that happens, email me, call me, let me know. And then, like I said, from there we can work on how to work for a solution. How do we see success from here?
So early on, be monitoring those grades and your
100%,
students'
yeah.
progress.
Yeah, and now it's easier than ever because it's online. Like, you can check from the first day of school. You can see what grades your kid has.
I wanted to jump back to you, Chris, because something else that you shared was just about, let us know if something's going on. If there's something that's happening with your child outside of school, but that could be affecting them.
Oh, absolutely. Like, I'm sorry, I forgot your name.
Erica.
Erica mentioned it's a family. And, with high school, it's even less than with the littles, where you get them for 55 minutes a day. But you'll have kids that wander back into your classroom sometimes. And if you can create a safe space for them, it's better. And then it allows us to communicate. Because, any teacher's a mandated reporter. If we hear something that they say, we have to go, it's like to the counselors, there's a very specific chain of events, and we're not coming after you, we're trying to help. You know, we've had all sorts of kids over the 30 years, like I'm amazed and impressed by their ability to get to school and to succeed. And you know, if we can help facilitate that, that's great, but the biggest piece are the parents. And I would say too, everything's online so you can check. Don't check every 45 minutes to see how your kid's doing. I mean, you know, let them breathe a little bit, and then you know, create some balance, like I said before. And so yeah, it's with a good, we have great parents, and that helps a lot. And when the parents are struggling themselves, you know, if we can help with that, we can try. But you know, it's still, you know, you have to be present for your kids first and foremost, and put your personal things aside, as you mentioned. Yeah, it's a and it's a tricky balance to create.
And
Yeah.
Pam, I wanted to jump to you on that tricky balance, because sometimes a lot of things can be going on outside of the home, but you have to make sure your kids are in school every day.
Absolutely. And that can be, you know, one of the most difficult things, because again, like Chris said, you don't know what's going on, you know, and sometimes the parents are having their own struggles. So it's like, you know, we can only do so much as educators, you know, but it does fall back on the parents. But, you know, as educators too, we want to be in the loop. You know, we want to be someone who can positively influence the parents and encourage them. You know, but we have to know what's going on first. If we don't know, then we can't help.
And talk more about just the importance of attendance, being there every day.
Oh my goodness, it's so important. You know, I think that's one of the most important things. How do you learn if you're not present? You know, so you have to be present. You have to show up, you know, and you have to be, you know, well rested. I think I said that also. You know, those are important things, to be well rested, you know, to have that routine so that, you know, you can be ready to learn. I'm teaching summer school right now, and my kids, they say, you know, we went to bed at 4 o'clock in the morning, and then they're falling asleep, and it's like, you know, no, you know, you have to go to sleep, and I'm with you. You know, it's so important to just tell them, you know, the importance of, you know, getting rest, and, you know, even during the summer months, you know, we have to be prepared and get ready for that new school year. So it's important to, you know, get into that routine so you're ready.
One of your responses was similar to Erica as well, about just speaking positively about the learning experience.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, encouraging the kids to speak positively about themselves. You know, you
And each other.
absolutely. You can't imagine how bad some kids feel about themselves. You know, I've had kids tell me, you know, I'm dumb. You know, I'm not smart. You know, and I always tell them, yes, you are. Oh my goodness. You know, you're great. You know, you're showing up, you're learning. You know, you always have a smile on your face. You know, there's always something positive to say. And kids, they respond to, you know, to those positive things that you have to say about them. You know, and they'll remember you.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I was just thinking that
they
when you
will
were saying
remember
that,
you.
is that those are the teachers that you do remember, that take that personal touch about helping to build you up, not just teach you the academic side.
Absolutely. I've been teaching for 20 years, and I still have kids who said, you know, do you remember me? I was in your preschool class, and I'm like, you know, and you see someone who's 25,
Right.
you know, they
Right.
look like you, right? They look like you, and I'm like,
the same.
right? You don't look the same, you know. But it's so you don't think, you know, at the time that you're really having an influence, but you really do.
Yeah.
You really do, and it's amazing when you have, you know, kids come back and say, you know, you really, you know, touched my life. I've had kids say, you were my first girlfriend. And I'm like, okay, I'll take that too, I guess.
Some kids do love their teachers.
Right, absolutely. But you know, you don't know what kids are going through.
Right.
You know, so it, you know, just to have a smile on your face and greet them every day.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes it's, you know, that's what helps them get through the day. You know, and then come back the next day,
Right.
because they know you're going to be there, and you're going to be smiling, and you're going to give them a hug. You know, so those things are important.
And that's actually not always easy for a teacher, because
It's
you're
not.
human and you may be going through things outside of the classroom too.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I mean, I share that. I work on live television, and I can go through things personally, but I can't show up with that, whatever that is on my face.
Right. And you have to show up.
Right.
But you
But I'm
do.
thinking the same with you, you know?
You have to have your game face on, you know, at all times. And it can be difficult. You know, I know we all went through COVID and all of those things, you know, and that was hard. It was hard.
I would say, though, both my parents have passed away in the last, my mom 8 years ago, my dad 2 years ago. And I told my students, I said, look, you know, I've been out. That's because my mom is very, and you know, those families rallied for me at 2 different schools, 2 different age levels, because, you know, there was a relationship enough that, you know, they cut me slack. You know, I got grace from them. And so it's, you know.
Sharing the human side.
And everybody's different. I wouldn't say every teacher would share that and would be comfortable with that. But for me, it's made having a relationship easier with families.
And on the flip side of that, like, I like to know when, like, kids are going through that stuff. Like at the high school level, a lot of times, you know, they're losing a grandparent for the first time. And if they lose a parent, like, we usually get an email or get contacted. But, you know, when their childhood pet dies, or like their grandparent that they were really close with, we don't always get those emails. We don't always get notified. So, like, communicate to us, and, like, I want to rally around your kid and, like, help you guys help that kid get through that.
That goes back to what Erica said about letting us know, and I think you said too, Chris, that, you know, letting us know things that might be bothering them outside of school.
And I have to imagine, Audra, I mean, when you're seeing these kids each and every day, you can tell when something's up.
All the time. I try to have a really good relationship with my students. I've been at Bates for 17 years, so I've developed a bond with them. I celebrate them. I make sure that they're okay. My door never closes. If it's closed, I'm not at work. So the kids know that. They'll peep in. Are you busy? And I'm like, okay, come on in. I'll give you a minute, you know, before I teach or whatever. And then they appreciate that. They look forward to someone that has their door open for them and that's willing to just listen sometimes.
Yeah.
And I try to be that teacher, to listen, to make sure I support my students and have their back when they need me to.
And on the tech side, because you teach in the IT department, that preparation before the school year starts, like reading up on information that you send out so that, you know, parents make sure their kids are ready.
Yes, that is the most important. As I've looked over the years, it's like the parents don't read the syllabus. They don't read the syllabus. They don't look at the sites that their children are using in school. And then they come back at the teacher, like, you gave my child this grade, why? And then my response to them is usually, have you checked the syllabus? Have you read it? You need to read it in detail. You'll see that they missed an assignment. If you go on our grading system, you'll look and see your child's grades. If you go on our other system, you'll look and see all the assignments I've given or all the assignments my coworkers have given, and you haven't, do you know what the last assignment was? They usually don't. They don't look. They don't try to know their child's school activities, school lessons. And I tell my students, you should have, you know, you got a phone, put your due dates in your phone. Make sure your parents are aware of your due dates. And the parents have like a little sense of entitlement now that it's on the teacher. It can't be on the teacher when they go home to you. You have to make sure that you are prepared for whatever they're doing, sports, you know, and other activities. You still have to do your schoolwork. Some kids tell us, well, I had football practice or basketball practice until 8 o'clock at night. You still have to do your homework. You can't use that as an excuse in life or, you know, in your educational journey. You have to be prepared to balance. So a lot of kids don't know how to balance.
And that's not the academic side of what you're teaching,
right,
but
right.
But you need to have that family experience of the parent understanding that they need to help you in teaching their kids responsibility.
Yes, it's like, you know, you said, you know, it's a partnership. And we are trying to make your child successful. We're not trying to hold your child back, or we have a grudge against your child, or the comment, you don't like my child. that's not, we've never said that. Most teachers don't say that. We just love on your child, and you just aren't aware how much love we put into your child because you aren't in the building with us for the 8 hours that we're there. So they, most parents, they have to step back, and say, hey, let me look and see what's going on. And if you don't understand or you don't know what's going on, email, call, ask, don't assume. A lot of parents go to the principal. The principal isn't your child's teacher. We are. Ask us, and see what we can do for you to help your child.
Anything else anyone wants to add?
Well, like when I email home for a kid who's got poor grades, like I'll tell the parents specifically stuff that we do in the classroom, and like, here's what you can ask your kid on Friday, something that we absolutely will do at some point multiple times throughout the week. Here's something that we're going to do, and you can ask specific pointed questions about something that you don't just have to say, well, how was school? And because I was that kid, like my mom would say, how was school? Oh, yeah, it was good.
It's
What'd you
fine.
do? Nothing. So you can specifically ask about this assignment. So if you're not getting that from, like, to the parents out there, if you're not getting that from some of your teachers, like, ask, how can I support you at home? What kind of questions can I ask? What should we be doing?
That is a great idea.
I agree with that.
I agree as well.
Yeah, even my son, I have a son, and I would always ask him, how was school? And he would say, it was okay. And then, he got older, and then he started to tell me things that were happening at school. And I said, why didn't you tell me that? But I realized
You didn't ask the right
I didn't ask
question.
the right questions. So sometimes we have to ask the right questions.
That's very insightful. Any examples of anything that you guys are, now that we've had this whole conversation, of anything you want to share, of success stories or overcoming a challenge in a parent-teacher relationship, or anything come to mind?
I had a parent tell me I was a real one. That
must be good.
And it felt good. And this was a family that supported their kids, were totally there for their kids all the time. But we work a lot at our middle school level with executive functioning skills and the stuff that's not necessarily academic, but that's going to help you be academic. And that was a point that I was trying to support this family in specifically because, and I didn't let up, and that was the thing, because, there were reasons, and there were some really good reasons, and there were also, but as to your point, you have jobs. In your point, you have to make school your job and prioritize things out before your sports practice or your play practice, or going to see grandma, or take your homework with you when you go to see grandma, or whatever, and work on those executive function skills. So that's kind of what I also have a big thing about growth mindset in my classroom, because it's not necessarily ELA related, but it's success related. How you perceive your struggles as opposed to failures, and how you're going to address them. And do you say, I can't, or do you say, what can I do better or differently next time? And I started that back when I was teaching kindergarten, because what's in their head comes out their mouth, and you can really kind of help redirect them a lot when they're in kindergarten. But the middle school kids are a little reluctant to, some of them will tell you everything, but some of them are a little reluctant to share where they're coming from. And, to do a whole group stuff and, do some, growth mindset learning as a group and in small groups, kind of helps them build relationships in their classrooms and with each other, as well as with the different teachers. So that's a focus that we're trying to spread in our whole middle school.
Well, and to build on that a little bit, it's interesting because when I walked in, the first thing I saw was that banner, expect respect, which is really, it's the first word I teach all my classes, regardless of what the class is about, because kids don't always understand respect's not like. I'm like, you don't have to like each other. If you want to have a big hug moment at the end of the day, go ahead. I'll watch, because I don't want to be in the middle of that. But respecting someone you don't have to like someone to respect them. And I think that gets overlooked a lot these days. And so with my 12th grade class, which the culminating assignment is they give a whole hour's presentation on a topic of their choice. So I do all sorts of almost like business-like team building exercises. And it looks goofy. And sometimes when I start to do stuff, they're like, seriously, Mr. Geyer, really? I'm like, yeah. Like I pass out balloons, like the week before presentations start, I pass out balloons. I had them each put their name on it. I'm like, now put a word on the balloon that gives you positive energy. And then they stand in a circle and then they pass and they each write their words. And I'm like, at the end, you've got a balloon full of positive thoughts and ideas. And then we go into the mall area. I'm like, okay, here's what we're gonna do. Just balance your balloon. Okay, now partner up and the two of you keep your balloons up. And then we start doing it until they get into the whole class is doing it. And some of the balloons fall. I'm like, but what do you do when it falls? Kids are like, you just pick it up. I'm like, right. You pick it up. You're picking each other up. You can support another student even if you're not speaking. If they're struggling and they look out, you just smile and nod and go, hey, you got this. And because, you know, public speaking is one of the biggest fears that people have, not just kids, people. And this is one of the assignments they have to do to graduate. And I'm like, so by the end, you'll have done all these goofy things with each other. And you'll know each other and you'll be relaxed and it's much easier to do that. But I said, but respect is if someone says something, there's a positive way if you don't agree to engage them. And again, supporting each other. Look, if someone says something funny during a presentation, of course you can laugh.
Right.
You know, if something happens, but really, that's why I teach the word respect first and make sure they understand the difference. And I'm like, you know, if you end up liking each other, that's a bonus. But if you can walk out respecting, well, then you're going to be a successful human because that's one of those skills that goes beyond the classroom. Learning how to communicate in a positive, balanced way with other human beings like we're doing here. Like I wanted to come here as much to hear what you guys had to say as to talk myself. And I'm learning stuff that I'm going to take back with me that I hadn't thought about.
Nice.
So I
Such
think
as?
that's...
Such as.
Well, and you know, speaking about communication, and an example, you kind of asked for these examples, and I had a student come to me one time and she said, I'm not going to be here all next week. Well, it was finals week. Kind of important, right?
Right.
And I said, oh, okay. Why? You know, and she said, well, you know, I don't know. And she was feeling a little shy, you know, and so I pulled her aside after class and we had a discussion, and it all came down to that the family didn't have the resources. They didn't have gas money. So I was like, we're not going to let this happen for you, you know. So I talked to my social worker, talked to the administration, and we got her to school all that next week. So one of the things that I had said too, like if there is an issue like that, reach out. If attendance is a matter of just you don't have the resources or something's going on, and we have spoken about that, but your school can try to help you. So reach out to your social worker, your administrator, even your teacher, you know, or, you know, in this case, this girl was comfortable telling me the communication is just so important because, and, you know, for us to ask questions as teachers, you know, ask the why, because if I would have just said, well, okay, I guess you'll have to take all your finals in one day, you know, that would have been so stressful. Right. So instead, we got down to the bottom of it and she could have, you know, a normal finals week. So that was...
Yeah. And also, you know, because obviously that's a pride thing, right? You know, for
Absolutely.
a parent, if they're struggling, the last thing you want is for anybody to know. You're trying to mask that as much as possible. But that also goes back to you, David, just talking about that trust and that this is confidential and we're just here to help.
Yeah. Yeah, let us help you.
Piggyback off Chris a little bit. One thing that I say to my kids, and I talk a lot about respect too, is I can't make you respect me. I hope I can earn your respect, but I will be treated with respect in my classroom.
DPS-CD celebrates the character traits on this poster here.
Okay.
We celebrate one every month. So this throughout the whole district.
Okay.
So every month there's a character trait. And then they're like my school, they talk about it on the PA system, the kids do. And then we'll have a bulletin board in the hallway talking about this character trait. And one of my coworkers, she'll go around and ask the kids to write what that character trait means to them.
So
then-
they're really learning
yes,
what
yes,
it means.
Yes, so they can, you know, learn it and then use it throughout the day. So it's one each month.
I love that because we have traits of the month as well, and the principal on our morning meeting kind of goes through it. But I'm going to go back there and say, because we have 8 classrooms and 8 months, let's let each grade take a month and give their feedback on it too, because they all can do it.
Well, we're kind of segueing already into advice for our students. So I'll start with you, Pam. As we are thinking of how to set students up for success, what do you want them to know before they walk into your classroom?
So I try to create an environment where everyone is welcome. So, I think they know that right off the bat. Everyone is welcome here. And I think like someone else mentioned, you don't have to, you don't have to like everyone, but you do have to respect everyone, and kindness is key in my room. So I expect kindness, I expect respect, and I like to build community, a community where everyone's voice matters, where everyone's voice is important, and if you have something to say, it's welcomed.
And how can they prepare?
Well, I think we kind of talked about that before. Just, we need that routine. We definitely need a routine before they start, So, I try to send home information. I, of course, encourage everyone to come, meet the teachers so that the parents know what to expect and the kids also. And it's nice because they get to see you just as kind of a person,
And something that stood out to me in just your response for advice for students, beyond even just the first day, you talked about consistency and effort and just being positive.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's how I show up. So I kind of expect them to show up the same way. I don't think my expectations are too much, but I think, I expect them to come every day. I expect them to come ready to learn and to do the best that they can. And for me, I try to meet the kids where they are. Yeah. I think that's important because, I don't set the bar, too high. I meet you where you are. And then guess what? Together, we'll try to get up there. We can do it together.
Yeah. And I like how you said that we're a team. It's the student,
absolutely.
it's the teacher, it's the parent.
It's the
and I see
team.
everybody nodding.
Absolutely. There's just no I. There's a we. The parents, the teacher, and the child. We're a team. And, that's important. And it's important for the parents to know that the kids and, and the teacher, absolutely. It's not what did you say, a battlefield? Yeah, it's not a battlefield. We're not going to all be going at war. We're going to work together. We're a team, absolutely.
So students are getting ready to come back to Cousino High School. What do you want them to know to have a successful year?
If they're in my class, there's no matter where you are, you're never out of the game. The way I run my class, the whole point is for you. I have a wealth of knowledge in the content that I teach, and I want to give you as much of that as I can in the short time that we're together. And at no point, even if you've got a 14% in my class and there's 2 weeks left in the semester, talk to me and we can work something out. You might not get an A in the class. You certainly, if you got a 14%, you're not going to get an A. But you might get a D minus, but I can't help you if you don't come talk to me. And like you said, everybody here, we're a team. We want to work together. And no matter what you got going on, I want to help you. I want you to do as best you can in my class. I want you to get the most out of the time because you got to be here anyways. So it goes back to attendance too. Show up. You got to be here. Because if you're not here, I can't help you grow. I can't help you learn. I can't help you do those things. And that's the whole point.
And I like that you say, focus less on the task and more on the growth and the development.
Me and a couple of my teacher buddies in the building, we talk about the question, what's next? Okay, Mr. Brown, now what do I do? What do you want me to do? As an art teacher, I want you to do whatever you want to do. Don't just, if you jump through the hoops just to get it done, you're missing so much. The rubric that I give you for the requirements of the assignment shouldn't be looked at as, okay, a series of tasks. It should be looked at as, okay, I got to stay within these borders, but beyond that, I can do whatever else I want. And the kids who take those projects and just go beyond are the ones who are getting the most out of the class. And like, I ask this question at the beginning of my class every semester: how many of you are going to go, as an art teacher, like how many of you are going to go into art like in college or pursue it as a hobby? And maybe one or two hands. Like, I know that already. So the stuff that we do in this class transcends just being an artist. It's about building your creative, your problem solving, your creativity, and those things are gonna, you'll use those skills every day.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think if someone else said that about just being open to learning itself, even if you're not interested.
Yeah.
Did one of you
Having
say
growth
that?
mindset.
When I talk about growth
Yeah.
mindset,
Yeah.
that is all about that. You know, learn from your mistakes, be open to your mistakes. The process is the key, not the end point. You know, figure out what you don't know. All those things.
I needed you guys when I struggled in math.
Yeah, I know.
Because I still think I'm dumb in math.
Nope, we don't say that. I don't know it yet.
Right, still, even at this age.
But you know what, Rhonda? What I'm learning is, and I teach my kids this, to lean into your discomfort. You know,
Yeah.
that's what I, you know, it is. It's so hard for all of us to do. And they do. But guess what? They'll learn, you know, so much by just doing that. You know, I know we always speak positive and, you know,
Yeah.
let's be positive, but guess what? Sometimes you got to lean into that discomfort too. You know, it's important.
So many good nuggets here.
Well, one other, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. No, I was gonna, as far as coming in, because it's kind of general when you say things, but like if they look at going to school as being an explorer, because the point is to find out what you want to do. So take a chance, get involved. There's all these people with all these doors that open so you can figure out. One of our counselors talks to students and he's like, it's important to know not just what you like, but what you don't like, because you can eliminate. Like if you're not good at math, you're probably not going to be a CPA. But you know, my father, he was an engineer with an MBA and he was very direct. He had a sense of humor too. He's like, look, he's like, figure out what you like to do, figure out what you're good at, and if you can combine those things, you'll find something to do with your life. And so if the kids can come with that attitude, like, you know, okay, so you're not doing well in English, but you're fantastic in industrial arts. You can put things together and you see things that other people don't see. There's where your pride is. You know, you find the thing that gives you pride. And that's our job, to help you find that pride in that area where you can glow. And because not every kid, you know, every kid can be president. I don't know if every kid would want to be president. I wouldn't have. That sounds like a lot of paperwork.
Yeah.
Right. But
full-time job, you won't have summers
Yeah.
off.
right, exactly. Yeah, well, yeah. The first year, then before I became a teacher, the first time it hit June, I'm like, oh, there's something wrong here because this is supposed to be But I mean, it's if you look at it as an explorer, and that's not. You know, I'm an English teacher too. It's you go to metaphors, you can't help it. You're like, okay, you're an explorer. You're going up the mountain, and you're going to. But look, if someone says, hey, do you want to try this? Try it. Yeah. Worst thing is you don't like it, you don't do it again. But I can't tell you how many kids have said, you know, I didn't know when I took your class if I would really like this. But then they end up having, and I teach, again, video and film, and I have kids who have gone on to work at the stations here in Detroit. I have kids who've worked as PAs on Yellowstone. I've had kids, and they contact us and they let us know, and that is the greatest joy, is when you hear back from a kid and they're doing well, and then you're able to go like, hey, you know, if you want to throw some tickets my way, that'd be fine. You know,
Don't forget about me.
Yeah, you know, I'm just saying, you know, a little shout out's okay, but. Yeah.
Andra, do you want to just elaborate? I know that growth mindset is important to you too.
Yes, very much so. I personally think kids should go to bed on time, like we all said, and be on time for school. We have a lot of students that's tardy for school, and I know they don't drive, but parents should know what time school starts, what time, you know, their child should be there, and get them there so that they can have breakfast. And if they don't have breakfast at school, to make sure they have something to eat before they leave the house. Because I'm big on making sure, like if my kids come late for an hour in my class, I tell them go grab a breakfast and just eat it outside the door, because I have carpet. Eat it outside the door, and come in. I don't want any kids sitting there hungry and that's all they're thinking about, because they're not going to think about my lesson. They're not going to think about anything else. So if they get there on time, then they're not rushed. I think that is very important for the kids not to be rushed when they finally get to school. And that would help them with their success. Make sure you have all your supplies. Make sure you have the growth mindset, and you have a positive feeling. If you're not having a great day, let the teacher know, hey, I'm not having a really good day. And most of us will, well, especially me, I'll try to cheer you up, within school, because I don't like when my kids come to school and they've been yelled at in the car. And then they're upset because it affects their work ethic. It affects their whole day. So I try to cheer them up, and I'm silly, so the kids, I'll be trying to say, crack jokes or whatever, but that's important to them. You can't yell at them in the car and then expect them to have a great day. Let them come in and be positive. Let them come in with a great, start of the morning, and, just help them be successful. We're doing it, the parent has to do it as well, and they support us.
And part of that student success too is them having personal responsibility.
Yes, very much so. Most of our kids, they know what time they have to be at school, and they'll come in like, Miss Butler, I'm sorry, I'm late, we had car trouble or whatever. I'm like, okay, well, we're doing this, just come on in and let's get started, and let me know if you need me to explain something over, I'll come to you. Yeah. And most of our kids, they will do that. They will make sure, they ask questions or whatever. But they also should have a planner. I've been big on planners since I've been teaching. Like, have some form of, I got a test on this day. I need to make sure I'm prepared for this. A lot of kids aren't prepared for their everyday classes, and and they need the help from home first. And then we don't mind helping as well to support and have that family dynamic. So, that's important as well.
And Erica, you talked about, for our advice for parents, about the importance of getting all of that sleep, but students need to have that ownership too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. They have to know why, like we talked about, they have to know why that sleep is important. And they have to experience the effects of how good they feel when they do get that sleep. I think they're just so used to being in this routine where it's like, well, I'm going to go lay down in bed, but then I'm going to be on my phone, and it's a vicious cycle, And I think even for us teachers, I don't like to go to bed early either, but if I don't feel good, and then I'm not my best. So I share that experience with my students. I say, I'm a phone person too. I can be on TikTok until midnight, but guess what? I put it away because I want to feel better. And once they experience it even like one time, they're kind of like, And they might not do it every night. They might not do it all the time, but there is something to it. They have to experience how much better they feel before they will buy into it, right? It's all about buying into it. And really another piece of advice I like to give my students is that every day is a fresh start. A lot of times, especially if one day is a behavioral challenge for them, or maybe they got a write-up, or maybe they were just, they think that, I've noticed that a lot of times they think that we're still thinking about that, or we don't like them, or we think they're a bad kid now. And it's like, no, we are starting fresh. And I tell my students that, right? Like we start fresh every day. You have an opportunity to start fresh every day. We all have bad days. Maybe I wasn't having a great day, right? And we have that understanding, and that's the relationship that we build, right? And that teachers, should be building with their students. But just letting them know that, I'm not thinking about yesterday anymore. You're not a bad kid. You're a student. You're learning, and we're here for a fresh start. And that really happens a lot with behavior, but that's true for grades too. You don't do well on something, we're here to try again, and let's get it this time. Let's have a fresh start. So
you mentioned about the devices and being on your phone, and Lynn, one of your suggestions was creating a dorm room for our electronics.
Yes. Yep.
This is where they live.
This is at home. And then now we're doing it at school too with the pockets, but at home, that it's real powerful. And there are many kids with TVs in their room, and that's not what I advocate for as a parent or a teacher. But I had parents when I was teaching the younger grades saying, I put them to bed and they were asleep and they got up and then they were watching TV. I'm like, you can just unscrew that wire and take it to bed with you. You don't have to do anything else but take, things you never thought you'd be saying when you went to education school. Just take the wire and, take the one cable, take the plug in,
At the school level, you can change the Wi-Fi password.
Change the Wi-Fi password.
Oh, it's going to send you into a tizzy. You're going to go crazy.
But the thing I would say that I think goes for any subject in adulthood is back to we talked a little bit ago about the executive function. Get in the habit of using a planner, as Audra said. We have them, and as a teacher, I'm trying really hard to give a one-sentence nugget suggestion for them to put at the end of my class. So that they can go through, one thing you learned, one question you have, one anything, so that you didn't walk out of my room and you're not going to remember one thing that was said during that 50-minute period. And if every teacher did that, then there's 51 thing to think about for all the classes. But where do you put your planner? What pocket of your backpack? Where do you, I use the example of my school keys all the time. And I say, I take them off my neck and I put them in this pocket in my school bag and I don't ever take them out of there because I can't get back in the morning if I don't have them. And, because I have in my family, people I love deeply have ADHD. And so I have a lot of executive functioning nuggets that I've done to help the people in my family, and that has helped me a lot too. Make sure you do your supplies. Put your clothes out the night before so you can have a smooth morning and you don't have to think about it. Yes. If you're responsible for your lunch, pack your lunch the night before so you're not trying to grab something in the morning. Set your own alarm. Don't expect your mom to wake you up because sometimes mom's alarm doesn't go off, especially when you're in the middle school. You can do these things. Yes. And a lot of kids run late. Parents don't like to deal with a hassle, and then they roll in late. But if you're down there waiting for your ride, I think that the driver may move a little quicker as well. Yes. So, because I don't think families think about how absences affect the overall. I mean, I've sat down saying, it's Christmas and your child's missed 20 days of school. Do you realize that that's 20% of school or whatever? I work out the percents and say, so how do you want them to get an A if they're only exposed to C-level amount of curriculum because they're not even here? Yes. You can't ask them to get an A. You can't expect me to take them to an A if they have, they've missed 25% of school or 40% of school. Or if I teach first hour and you're late every day and they miss half of my class every single day, you're making an impossible job for your child and me. And they can't drive and I can't come pick them up because I would. So I think then that's executive function, and that's where parents can really help their kids and where kids can help their parents, especially the older they get. Set your own alarm, get your own stuff ready. You know what you need. You know when your homework's due. They walk through the door sometimes and they just want to put it behind them, and then they don't. Then they're panicked. Some kids wake up at 6. Oh my gosh, I didn't do my homework, and they're trying to do it at the table, and they spend 5 minutes on something that should take 20 or something, and that's where that executive functioning and that planning for then that helps you prepare for high school, and then that helps you prepare for college or track school or training school or wherever you're going to wind up going in life, because you can't roll up to work 20 minutes late every day and it's going to be okay.
Not going to have that job for very long.
And the fact that what happens, a lot of kids keep their cell phones at night and they're up doing Roblox or Minecraft or texting or doing a TikTok. The phone should come to the parent at night so that the child can sleep. And that's not happening. So a lot of our kids come to school tired. So they're not ready for school that day, and it's hard on them. And then you keep having to wake them up. It's not fair to them as well, because the parent could just take the phone. You're the adult. Take the phone, put it on your dresser, and give it to them in the morning, or if they need it.
and understanding just what you were expressing, how detrimental that can be to their ability to learn, and also just that constant exposure.
And if you think it's a lot, try it for a week. See how your family rolls for a week. You know, try it your way the first week and try it that way the second week, and see how different your mornings are, see how different your evenings are, and then you decide as a family if it's worth it to you. Don't make us tell you.
Yeah.
Try it.
Good advice.
To parents of young kids, like I have a 5-year-old at home, so my wife and I like have started having the conversation, like what are the rules for phone use? Because I don't want to get to middle school and high school and have to battle, have to change the routine. Like if we set the ground rules right now before she has any of those devices, then it's what we do.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting because when I grew up, we didn't have a television in our bedrooms. There was like a family TV downstairs, and that was it. And I would have a lot of friends. They're like, oh, and I was never a TV watcher in my room. I mean, even as an adult, it just wasn't. That's just I'm not. Even though I work in TV, I'm not a big TV watcher, and I think it was just because I was raised that way. Just some final thoughts, and actually more just your passion for teaching and what keeps you going. Anybody can start.
I love teaching. It makes me happy. I go to school happy. My kids, they give me life. They give me joy. Hey, Miss Butler, hey. Or when they send me a text. Oh, like yesterday, one of my students, she made the swim team. And I called her and said, congratulations. She said, yeah, Miss Butler, I'm on a swim team. She's going to CAS. So she's on the CAS, swim team. So I was excited. I love that. I love to hear what they're doing. I love to help them do whatever they want to do. Yeah. And that excites me when they're passionate about it, and then they make me passionate about whatever it is that they want to do. Yeah. So that's what keeps me going.
Nice. Erica?
My main passion is to just show my students how much potential they actually have. They are so powerful at this age and with school, right? So I just love to show them what they can do with their life, how they can use education to help them get what they want out of life. I always tell them, like, good grades can turn into money, and then they're like, wait, what? Scholarships, like, what are you talking about, Mr. Paskey? So I love showing them that there's so much ahead for them, and that like they just have to find that passion, and I love helping them find that passion. So that's why I really love high schools, because like the next step is kind of right around the corner. And so whatever that is, to just like let them know, like, this is what's available to you, and showing them the resources, like showing them, taking them on college tours. I just love helping my students plan for the future, and just showing them everything that they have at their fingertips, so I love that part.
Chris?
I had a 5th grade teacher who was the first male teacher I had. Most elementary school teachers are. And he was funny, and he was open. He made us respect him first. He scared us for a week, and and then he was like, okay, guys. And I was like, I would love to do that. And it made me realize that the thing about teaching is you're part of a community. You're part of something bigger than yourself. And that appeals to me. I've been at the same building my whole career, and that was my goal. That's what I wanted to do. And I've been blessed to be able to do that. And so I go there, because like everyone said too, you got stuff at home. You've had things. My life hasn't been perfect for the last 30 years, but you get there and kids are glad to see you. And teenagers are hilarious.
Oh, yeah.
People overlook that. If you
They're
just look
so
at that as a
funny.
battle, it's a battleground. Not a battleground, man. This is like, Comedy Central and training. Because sometimes they're trying to be funny. Other times they're saying things, and I'm like, come on, you really think I'm going to buy that? Yeah. I thought I'd try. I'm like, if this is creative writing, man, you get an A. But, it's just a wonderful place to be. And that's what gets me there every year. I like I said, I could retire now. I've got 30 years, and I don't intend to, because I enjoy it too much. It's just really been an anchor. And I think anybody who does it for more than a few years, you realize that it's a community and it's a home.
Yeah. 40 years, Lynn.
Yeah, 40 years, starting 41 right now. It's about relationships, right? I'm a relationship person. When I took a gap year and was an exchange student out of high school because I couldn't decide if I wanted to pursue law, journalism, or teaching. And I'd been babysitting since I was 12, and so I was around kids a lot. And now, looking back at all that, my plan was that I was going to teach for 10 years and then do one of the other ones, right? And life changed and that didn't work. But one of my former students is a principal, and his sister works at an ISD teaching kids on the autism spectrum. And one of my former students ran for a congressional seat. And one found me on Facebook and told me that when she came in the middle of the school year, I changed her life. I found this out when she was 30 years old. And I didn't know. I was just doing what you do when a new kid comes in and trying to hook them up with kids that are going to be nice to them and move the community. And I changed her life. And, well, who doesn't want to change someone's life, right? So that's why I'm still at it, because, I'll know when to be done when I'm not pulling out as much from selfishly as I put out, because I put out a lot, but I get back just as much.
Yeah. Who'd I miss?
So, like graduating high school, if you would have told me I'd have been a teacher, I would have laughed, because that was the furthest thing on my plate. I struggled in high school, and I was diagnosed with ADD. So you guys were talking about planners, and I could feel my skin crawling. But I volunteering at my church. I started teaching religious ed, and I realized that I got a good sense of humor, and I like building relationships, and I really enjoy helping people. And as a teacher, I get to do all of those things on a daily basis. And when you come across a kid, I ran into a kid at a donut shop, graduated in 2018, and we're talking, and she's like, "You were my favorite teacher." That's so cool, and it's so gratifying, and every day is a challenge as a teacher, but it's also really rewarding, and I don't know, it's to have the chance to help people and to help kids. Like I said, as a high school student, I struggled, so to be a teacher in that position and be able to reach out to the kids who I see struggling and kind of share that with them and help them along, it's very rewarding, very gratifying.
How about you, Pam? What keeps you going?
When I was growing up, I was very shy. And I'm still very, probably wouldn't believe it, but I am. I'm a shy person. I'm very introverted. But when you show up for those kids, you don't have time to be shy. And I think they have brought me out of my shell, and I look forward to seeing them just as much as they look forward to seeing me. And you don't realize how much someone can impact your life until you become a teacher, and I know about having bad days. Like Chris said, my life hasn't been perfect, but when you show up for them, it's like they show up for you too, and they make you feel like you're the best thing, and you try to make them feel the same way. So that's what it's done for me. It makes me show up. And it makes me feel like I can do anything because they believe in me. They believe in. I'm like, you believe in me? They're like, we do. And I'm like, well, and I believe in you too. If you can believe in me, I can definitely believe in you.
Well, you are all wonderful teachers, and this has been such a wonderful dialogue with all of you. And just thank you for taking the time and talking to me and sharing advice for our students and
Yeah,
parents.
it was awesome.
Yeah, this is great.
Thank you
Awesome
for having us.
opportunity. Thank you.